Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors can talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. My name is Linda Maria Frank. I'm the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries, and we're going to do something entirely different today. We're going to have a panel show of members of Long Island Authors Group. Long Island is a treasure trove of authors. I cannot believe it. In my small town of Massapequa Park, within a 3-block radius, there are 4 of us. So we're going to talk today about the value of joining a group. And before we get to that, though, you can find us on YouTube. Just look for The Writer's Dream. You can find us on Facebook. And if you have a question or you would like to be on the show, please message me through Facebook. We had gotten a number of guests that way. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to some members of Long Island Authors Group, and we're going to talk about the value of joining a group like Long Island Authors Group and also all the things that we do. So our president is Roland Allnach, who is a recidivist. He's been on the show, this is the 3rd or 4th time?
3rd or 4th time, yeah.
Lois Stern, how many times have you been on, Lois?
More than I can count, Linda.
Well, Lois is great because Lois likes to try new things, and some of them have turned out to be very interesting and funny. And we have also Ann Coltman, and Ann Coltman is our monthly coordinator for our get-together and our guest speakers. So, Roland?
Yes.
What does the group mean to you?
Group for me means a way to get out and try to get in front of the public. My experience before joining the group, I think, is indicative of what a lot of independent authors face, which is that you sit at home at your desk trying to figure out what you can do, how you can get exposed, how you can get out there and meet people who are going to be your readers. And when you're in that situation, it's almost claustrophobic because you're locked into that and you don't have contacts, you don't have any input, and the idea of going from that very private setting to a much more public setting seems like an inseparable divide. In joining the group, all of a sudden that went away. The first thing I noticed was while I'm sitting in a room with a very interesting group of people, all different backgrounds, they've written on different subjects, but we're all sharing the same idea, which is how do we get out there? Mm-hmm. So being able to compare and contrast ideas, hear other people's experiences, it changes everything. It really is, and I can't stress that enough, and that's one of the reasons why I've been so involved with the group, is how important that is. The ability to talk to people who are in a similar situation and working with each other to try to better the cause for everyone.
Well, the problem with books, and unless you've really gotten into the field of trying to publish a book, is that you write the book, and that is very insular.
Yes.
You publish the book, which is a challenge in itself. Today it's easier because self-publishing has become very popular and also widely accepted through the internet. Mm-hmm. But there's a whole process behind that. There's 3 different ways that you can publish books: small press, there's self-publishing, and there's traditional. Then there's, do we get an agent or not get an agent? And these people in the room have tried everything, and so you're actually getting the benefit of everything they said. But I have to relate this little kind of funny story to you. I received an email from a person who was trying to set up an author day at a library. And what this person proposed was that the authors come, could not sell their books, but could have 10 minutes to speak about their books, and each child who comes would get an autographed copy of our book, and they would put the book in the library. So what did I think of that? So I sent an email back, and I understand where this person is coming from, because many libraries, they do not allow you to sell your book.
That's right.
And they called it an author night, I believe. So I said, the long and the short of it is, authors would like to sell their books. I mean, I just said it very bluntly. And I said, if you can convince your board to change this to a fair instead of an author event, then we'd be happy to come and do the same thing, but sell our books. So the object of the game is to sell books. And I know Anne, through her procuring guest speakers for us, this is one of the thrusts. So would you like to tell us about some of our premier guests who have helped us sell our books?
I would say we've had, trying to
Turn of the Corkscrew.
Turn of the, well, yeah, Turn of the Corkscrew, yes, Carol Honig and her bookstore. But I was trying to kind of remember those speakers who came, and because of their background in the publishing business, you know, we were able to learn a lot from them. One of those authors was...
People from Barnes & Noble.
Yes,
Various libraries.
yes.
Also, I
definitely.
think Carrie Ann Brodsky, she gave us a real
yes,
insight
and,
into three kinds of publishing.
What's his name? Oh my goodness! One of our members. He is a published author.
Phil Keith.
Phil Keith. I think he did a couple of presentations with us, and you know, he knows a lot about the business, and we gain a lot of experience through his experience. You know, a lot of knowledge through his experience, and that has helped. We've gained a lot of knowledge through the bookstores, Barnes and Noble. They coming in and
Yes.
speaking with us. We
There's Darlene Dexter.
Darling Dexter, yes. And we've had Carol Honig. We've had an experience with her too. And as a matter of fact, she has opened up to the authors to be able to use her bookstore to do, you know, presentations and stuff like that. All the little bookstores along the way, individual authors have had contact with all the little bookstores on Long Island. But our monthly presentations, you know, I try to focus on getting people who will help us with marketing
Yes,
and
that's the bear.
publishing. And marketing is a big thing, because what's the reason for having a book if you can't get it out there? And so I try to, if I don't get someone from outside of the group, I try to focus on someone within the group who's had that knowledge, you know, of
Right.
a lot of knowledge of not only self-publishing, but traditional publishing as well.
Sure, all the kinds
Yeah,
of publishing.
yes, so that we can, you know,
And it's
learn
interesting.
from that.
I think it's interesting in that people who are not famous writers to begin with will tell you that self-publishing will provide you with as many venues to market as the traditional publishers will give you when they give you that advance. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really not worth the money that they will give you in an advance
Advance.
because you have to sell that many books. So
That's
you
right.
learn all these little pieces
Yeah.
that you put together that you can make your own plan.
Yes.
And I know Lois has really used the internet to her advantage in marketing her books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about
Well,
Tales to Inspire?
Linda, you know all this because I've been out here and talked about it, but it was an outgrowth of my own experience in getting that New York agent, getting that book, the first book out there, and she was so hot on it, this agent, this was going to go big time. This was quite a number of years ago.
And the book was?
Sex, Lies, and Cosmetic Surgery.
Now, how could you miss with that title?
And I did everything right, and it went through some of the major publishers, and the feedback I got was there was a lot of conversation about it. They finally turned it down because I didn't have enough of an author platform. I didn't even know the word at the
Yes,
time, what that
exactly,
meant. Okay. And I started to think then, you know, there have to be a lot of people out there, talented writers, who are in the same boat. And that's when I devised this plan of Tales to Inspire. And I started with LIAG, and I invited people from LIAG, but actually I never published. Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry. One person from LIAG. But I devised this whole plan for them submitting stories. Each story that I accepted as a possibility got critiqued anonymously by 3 other authors. And the highest scores went into the books, okay? So they're all contest winners. And I do so much work, and when I got your printout on what you're doing with this, I started to laugh because I said, my gosh, we've talked to each other too much because we've both done the same thing. I blog each winning author one at a time for like 2 weeks. They get the spot on my blog, which is part of my WordPress site, and it's called The Inspiring Story of the Week, except it gets there for 2 weeks, highlighted. I let the author know the night before, tomorrow your story is going to be up there. These are the things you can do. I said, I'll put it on my Facebook page, I'll do this and that, but if you want to help yourself, you do the following things. And I made a list. Some of them do it, some of them don't,
Yeah,
like
and
like
share,
everything
like and
else,
share.
right?
Click,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and share.
But could I just share that little quote I gave you this morning? Because this came back from my childhood. I don't know if I got it at Sunday school or where I got it, but it stuck in my head, and it seems so pertinent to what we're talking about today. And it's a quote from Hillel, who said, "If I'm only for myself, what am I?" No. Is that the way I said it to you this morning? No. If I'm only for myself, what am I? If I'm saying it wrong, aren't I?
All
'Cause some
right,
people-
you think about it.
Okay.
And we'll come back to you.
Okay.
We have something really unique, though, in Long
Okay,
Island
good.
Authors Group. And Roland is going to tell you about the Traveling Bookstore.
Yeah.
And this is fantastic.
Yes, and it goes, I think, a lot to the core and the theme of what we're all talking about here is the strength of being together, obviously of being with a group.
Yep.
You know, we've heard some ideas and some things about doing things individually, but when it comes down to it, there's obviously a much more strength when you're with a group. Certainly when you're beginning and you're trying to get out there and trying to get known, to do it with a lot of other people with the same exercise, it's a multiplier. And you start to have options that you wouldn't normally have on your own. So with Long Island Authors Group, we instituted something called our Traveling Bookstore. And what our Traveling Bookstore does, it gives our authors a chance to have their books presented at town fairs. We're going to 9 different fairs this year, including Brooklyn Book Festival. That alone is 30,000 book buyers for one day. Getting spaces at these various town fairs, certainly at Brooklyn Book Festival, oftentimes economically is a very difficult decision for a single author because the spaces have costs. You try to equate that to, well, how many books do I have to sell? And it may be a difficult thing. Plus, then you'll be sitting there as one person. Will people know you? Will they even know to stop to talk to you? With the Traveling Bookstore concept, we have tents with the Long Island Authors Group logo on them. We have bookshelves with all of our authors' books face out for people to see. They can come in, they can look. We have tables for authors to do their signings. And it's all about awareness and branding. These are, you know, the marketing concepts you learn that no one tells you about before you publish the book. But then you get published and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you need to be a marketing expert. And it's a rude awakening for probably 99% of the authors out there.
Yes, I would say
Me
so.
included.
Yeah.
But the Traveling Bookstore is really just, again, about the strength in numbers. And this, having the group, having our 50-odd members or so with all their different books, having the ability to draw on that collectively has not only given us a brand recognition and a presence, but also gives us an economic flexibility to
Yes.
engage these different events.
Yes.
And as I said, that strength of the group changes the way you can approach all these things. Because
So-
you're not just doing it as one person now.
Right.
You have this whole resource to draw from. And it's an idea that, you know, it's evolving and it's getting tweaked along the way and getting input from different people involved in it, from other authors, people who come by and see us. We were at one fair in Port Washington, and it was very flattering that some of the other vendors at the fair came to our space to tell us how great it looked. And, you know, that's not
It
just
does look great.
Yes, we're very proud of it. And it's not just a matter of patting ourselves on the back for what we've done with it, but it's the idea of what we're presenting now clearly is hitting the mark. And that's from the group. That's not from an individual person.
Right. So
But-
you could be in the Traveling Bookstore. Your books can be in the Traveling
Absolutely.
Bookstore. Or you can be a signer. They're limited number for each fair. Instead of paying $450 for the space, you pay $40
Yeah.
or $10 a
Always
book.
to have your book there.
And I mean, this, as you said, makes it economically feasible because to do marketing is very expensive. You hire a publicist, for instance, is astronomical.
Yes.
And this is another thing that you learn when you belong to a group, is you learn from others' mistakes. And you also can be directed to very good people. So let me just mention a few things about Long Island Authors Group. Our website is longislandauthorsgroup.org, and you can see every one of our authors on that website. You can see our events. You can see a picture of the traveling bookstore, which you can also see on my Facebook pages, and probably your Facebook page.
Yep, it's
And we do fairs, but we also do author events at libraries. We also have a brochure which includes all of the lectures, the various lectures that our authors do. For instance, I do lectures on forensic science. You do lectures on publishing and short stories and
Short story, novel publication, marketing.
right. So
World building.
and other people have, you know, are you doing? No, Lois, do you have a lecture in the brochure?
I do not.
Okay, but you
I did
used to.
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
But so we're trying to capitalize on the fact that we have a lot of very smart people who do lectures on various, so we have lectures, we have a website, and we have, the website is also good because we have a webmaster, and he is able to give advice about what to do with your website and how
Right,
to
yeah.
use it. One of our guest speakers
Yes.
also talked about maximizing your presence on social media. So there's just so much shared information that we have. Some of us enter contests, so if you enter a contest, then you can feature it on the website. So it's all very exciting stuff. So
And for the
Linda, could we
bookstore.
just say, and I think it's worth mentioning, Roland built those books
yes.
Book-
shelves
shelves
himself,
of-
went to
So
Home
when the
Depot,
books
bought
fail,
the
you can go
supplies.
into the carpentry trade.
That's
What the
right.
heck?
I thought about it for a little while.
And I was so impressed when I saw the pictures with the canopy and
Yeah.
all. I
And you
think it
know,
I'm
was
sorry that we
special.
didn't bring
The bookstore is really special because a lot of our authors who are, you know, not very active in going to fairs and don't have the time to sit there, and you know, we don't hear from them very much, but they have an opportunity now to showcase their work in the
Without being
bookstore without having to do anything.
And that was part of the idea of it.
Yeah.
Again, utilizing the group is to give people
Yeah,
options.
yeah,
Sitting at a fair is, you know, it's an all-day proposition.
it is.
You're going to be at a table, there's the time investment, there's the money investment for the space, will you sell books?
Books, yeah.
There's the idea of now having to try, as people walk by, to introduce yourself to them, let them know who you are, what you wrote. But with the bookstore now, we have an appearance that people immediately understand who we are, what we're doing there,
yeah.
and what we
Very
have.
professional.
Yeah.
And a lot of it I picked up just looking at other vendors at the fairs. And I realized, you know, people who sell jewelry, they have their jewelry on display. So that's that. People who sell clothes, the clothes are on display.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, while it's nice for us to sit as authors at tables, if we put our resource together and have all of our books
Books on
there,
display,
now
yes.
it's clear who we
Yes,
are and what we're doing.
definitely.
And it,
Beautiful idea.
branching that gap of people walking up to you to try to understand what you're doing is gone now. People
Right.
walk by, they immediately know. Long Island Authors Group, books, authors. So
Yeah.
Also, I think it's intimidating for some people to come into the tent when there are 7 or 8 authors sitting there, and they don't want to come up to you because they feel obligated to look at your book and then buy
Buy
it.
it,
So this way,
yes.
it's like the privacy of browsing in a bookstore.
right.
They can
Yes.
just go up to the shelves and look at the different books, and then if they decide, it's a more private decision. So I think that's worked out really well.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that we're looking into are, we're looking into the fact that Molloy College may actually run a book fair, a Long Island book fair, which is very exciting to people like us.
Yes.
And so we're awaiting that very, and we're always looking for any venue where we can feature
think-
authors. All of the authors we've talked about today have been on this show.
Yes.
And what I've tried to do with this show is, I don't think that the people who watch the show aren't really, they don't really understand all the things I do with it. It's available on this website, which is ltveh.org, and you just go on, you click on Video on Demand at the top, and then there's a search, so you search my program, And then you can see all of the shows. Also, this is aired, I think, 5 days out of 7 here, and this is from